vlog number 5. Alright guys, so this is going to be maybe the best of both worlds. A little bit more like the two worlds I'm referring to are the part where I actually don't over the heck edit my videos just to make sure that they look like they're quality content or something like that. Okay, maybe scratch that out. This is kind of like the best of both worlds. It's like between not trying to make this video what it doesn't have to be, so it doesn't have to be like whatever standard I had for quality content, if even that's the fear mongering it has to be. And between basically that and still trying new things that may doesn't have to even be about adding value. It really doesn't have to be. That's gonna be irrelevant to this video, but if it is relevant to this video, it's not really about adding value. It's more like trying new things that aren't relevant at all to the value of this video. So it could be like a vlog that doesn't have to be like adding the value that it thinks is appropriate. So in other words, trying its own thing, but like, you know, without having to be too relevant to what I do or what the niche should be. But claymation, no, okay. But it's like no, but just or vlogging, yeah. But this is vlog number 5. So we're gonna at least talk a little bit about things I enjoy doing, or what's really going on in my life. There even for me, there are some standards I have to set in order to prevent myself from talking about too much about my actual life. And for some people that may be a little concerning. It's like, well, what do you mean by that? It's like, yeah, of course there are some things I can't tell you about, at least not publicly. Like in the private journals I write down, there's probably going to be a private handhold journal I write down that I don't share with on YouTube or in public. In a public journal, I will show more videos about anyways that talks about things I'm doing in the first place that I'm able to share, that I'm allowed to share. But these are secrets I keep for myself, to protect myself. So, you know. But beyond that, there are things I've been accidentally hiding from that I wish I could have talked about sooner. Because I held them because of fear criticism from other people, including friends and family. So that was the thing about that. So those are things I was still talking about despite the fear criticism. And the rest of the things I need to keep secret for myself, for my own good, I will do so appropriately. But I will make sure that you guys know enough about my life that even if I don't owe you that, or even if you don't need to know that, it's still in a good enough equilibrium and balance, so it won't be too bad. But yeah, first thing we're going to talk about is maybe claymation, but more specifically, what do I really actually enjoy? Do I actually enjoy claymation? I hope I do. But yeah, we're going to talk about a little bit about what I enjoy. So like, I think I enjoy tinkering with things, seeing what makes them tick. I seem to enjoy a lot about survivalism. There's a little bit about that I can't talk about easily, but if I did, I would just do it in a very, very discreet way. So let's just take, for example, gardening. Yes, I like to plant shit, but in my own way. Like the one of the easiest things I can plant are herbs, because when I plant herbs, I don't fucking like have to worry about animals eating them down, or like or people fucking like shit saying, what are you really growing in that yard, Tony? It's like, no, I'm growing herbs. Leave me alone. The last time I planted dandelion, the people thought that was a weed, and they think technically they're right, but it's also not. It's more than just a weed. It's if anything, it isn't supposed to be a weed. It's like it's a herb in its own right, but people don't seem to see it because they grow like vegetatively. So when I grew dandelions, no animals were fucking with it. Hopefully, no humans were fucking with it. But when I grew them indoors, it was easy to get to like the stem, the part of the stems and buds and flowerings that could happen for the dandelion, that could happen in my little pot. That worked out for a little bit. In a nutshell, I didn't have to put too much water, because that was one of the lessons I learned. Is that putting too much water can actually damage the plant, and not attending to it enough times may also be as bad consistency. But I was too consistent with that. I put too much water, and I didn't tend to it. I tended to plant my dandelions too fast, I think, because the water would actually damage them over time. So I was worse than being not consistent as much. But yeah, ahead of that, planting other shit. I don't know if I planted anything else other than dandelions lately, but like I did. But the idea was like through herbs and things. I was for an apothecary site wise thing. Like for actually setting up a thing, something like I should use as a healing station, healing apothecary herbs. Then yeah, I could actually have worked with that around a little better than anything else in the meantime. But like, but yeah, that I'm gonna try to be careful with this. This is okay order. I talked about this in more in depth on digs, but that was a little bit of an accident. I mean, that was still helpful in a way, but I had to be careful with that. So, you know, yeah, growing herbs in my yard was one of the plans, and then seeing if I could actually make compost with it. So you can grow potatoes to make compost, and then that can be used again to make your other plants and other things you're growing. So that's helpful. But like, with the funny thing with potatoes that you can actually grow them in like a, they will be not only a good amount of your nourishment, which you don't need much else other than potatoes for nourishment. You can actually survive potatoes very well, specifically. But you can also use them to create compost into actual soil to enrich the soil around it, so that you can use it for other plants as if it was nitrogen fertilized. I'm still gonna use nitrogen fertilizer when growing the bristle potatoes particularly, and plant food as well. I'll use plant food for that and other plants, but I have plant food, so oops. Okay, sorry. But yeah, it's like making the best impact to grow those potatoes, and then using what I get from that to grow the other plants better, including the herbs, better. And learning from that experience is pretty valuable. Like that kind of if that kind of survivalism is important to me, then yeah, you can imagine that it's actually been pretty good to learn from that gardening stuff. It was actually it was nice learning from the if you've seen the thumbnail with the claymation sunflower plant in the pot, that's almost as big as they did get. Like they got a little bigger than that. The flowers in that pot they saw in the thumbnail, they were actually bigger than that when I was done growing them, and I had to eat them eventually because they were dying down after a while. But for her purposes, of course. So, but I took some pictures of them over time. I think, at least with that one thumbnail, from the videos you saw before. One of the videos you saw from that one era where I was making like, claymation thumbnails with the science communication topics, I guess you could say. But yeah, survivalism and tinkering stuff with stuff is one of the things that makes me really happy. I wish I could get into a lot more than that with you guys, but there's some of it I have to keep a secret anyway. So it's like but for teasing purposes, there you go. But yeah, I can get into that too if I need to. But it just I'm really into some of the stuff I work on lately. I really am. I just let me see what. So like tinkering with things, survivalism. I was really into like the Power Monkey supplies from a long time ago. I think there was like this one item they had like 10 plus years ago called the Silverback Gorilla. Is their biggest mega sized battery, and I used to simp over wanting that for like survivalist purposes. I wanted to have it so I could be passionate about wanting to survive a natural disaster or something like that. And it wasn't just a dumb battery. It could actually it had LED notifications or telling you on board the battery, the big ass battery, to tell you what it was charging and how much power it was outputting and other stuff like that. So it was pretty cool. But that's just one solid no pun intended, specific example about what my survivalist passion would be like. Is being passionate about surviving the worst to come and the most dangerous things to come, as if they're fun. And for me, that is fun. It's like sometimes I just say that I gamify my own survival, but it really is kind of true. I like one of the only things that seems obviously as of late that seems to get my gears turning is like not grinding but turning. I said that before. Is something that gets me to feel like I'm alive, and that's the idea behind thrillers and horror movies. Sometimes is that like they make you feel alive and excited, but that's kind of the wrong kind of motivation you would be getting at that point, because that's where you have like with survivalism, if not to say too much about that, but like where you basically don't want to clickbait people into like thinking that that they have no choice, and that you want people to feel good about trying to survive, not in need or in desperation. Even if that need is still apparent, you have to make it so that it's not about them needing to be in fear in order to survive. The survival is so that they don't need to be in fear. That's a big lesson I learned from this stuff lately. You should really try to think that through if you could. If that's the ideal I would go for. It's like you don't want to be in fear if you're trying to survive. You want to survive so you don't have to be in fear. And that gets into a little bit more into territory that I've been lately. A little bit of which is still going to have to be a secret, unfortunately. But like, I'm still gonna tell you guys a bit anyway. So what the heck? But survivalism is quite a fraction of what I do that I'm passionate about lately. So I just including sometimes I like to cook stuff. Sometimes I like to, or so-called cooking. I like to try like new things, try foods that I don't want to have to rely on too many other situations to wait up for. Whatever I call cooking at least. I just like to try new things. I actually made Jello one time, but I was supposed to use that for a herb recipe, but I didn't do that anyway. So I just made the gelatin right away, and I was like, okay, actually, this isn't so bad. I used gelatin mixed with a flavoring, and that was it. and it tasted pretty good. It was just not consistent enough. But it was like 7 out of 10 gelatin Jello for me. Big widespread pan of that. The only other problem was I leaked the fridge out that one time. But that was pretty cool. So I was again, it was supposed to be a herb remedy, apothecary wise thing, site wide thing into the whole sheet, so that it would actually be remedying to eat the gelatin, but like, you know, for whatever purpose it was for. But yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I'm certainly thinking about what I should or should not say right now. It's mind me. But believe me, when you see the public journal, the one I write on Microsoft Word or something like that, and I make videos about why I'm sharing in that journal and writing more of and talking more about while I'm making that video, those videos, you'll know what's happening in my life enough times that you'll get the idea. You won't have to know about all the private things that I need to keep to myself. But yeah, I just there's gonna be a public journal and a private journal, and the private journal is gonna be handheld in my room. That hopefully the feds don't just burst in here looking for it, but like, you know, and that gives you enough idea what I'm talking about. So, you know, claymation. I could tell you about, and I have been good about telling you guys about the content that has not been on this channel too often. That has been claymation from on my part. Sometimes I even show you the claymation itself, just not the context, not the audio clips and etc. But I even give you ideas, give you hints of where they can find the actual claymations. But they always weren't too terribly private by themselves. Those claymations, if they're on YouTube in the first place, even if on another channel, that's kind of the idea. Is that they're not too private. They're just a little bit too insecure with that. So there's not my insecurity, I would dare say, but maybe my own insecurity. But still, even if my own insecurity, it was still a bit of a decision-making process to think about where I would go about that. So I decided to make them like on a different channel. For this context, I dare say it is on Marchcraft. If you want to find those actual claymations that are private, the ones that are still on this channel, just without audio, you go to Marchcraft and you know the whole context story about that. I'm not going to link Marchcraft right away. I just want you to understand that right now if you need to go there. But I'll link Marchcraft if you want me to. But that's my decision. But yeah. So there are claymations I didn't make that are private in that regard on YouTube. So that's not really private. That's why they weren't that private. They were just not as easy to share. But the ones I really don't share, some of the commissions, the private commissions, aren't so much that they can't be shared. It's just that they happen to be for other customers that I happen to find that I don't want to talk about because I want to make sure that they get what they need. And if they have if they offer the right to share that video with other people. If I ask them that and they say no, then I have to I respect that. But if they say that it doesn't matter, then I can redeem the idea that maybe I could share it by choice, but maybe in the future. And then it's like, and if they say definitely share it, and I encourage you to share it, then of course I'll do that because I'm not a bad guy in that regard. I don't have to do that, but it's just, you know. But for a client of mine on whatever private commission I'm doing, or even public commissioning I'm doing, to share on their own terms, to share it for themselves, that's on them. But I mean, that's still a good thing, I guess you could say, because then doesn't have to be hidden forever. But sometimes, half the time, when I hit a claymation, it wasn't because I didn't want people to know what I made it, because most of the time I still care about my claymation enough that I actually want people to see it anyway. So, let alone if I get any success or progress or whatever the hell you call that, monetization, audiences, whatever, or fame or whatever. Really, half the time when I hit a claymation, it was either because it was special for like the future or something like that, which I guess we'd be procrastinating at the point. Maybe that's not true, but it was either to protect the integrity of what it was actually about for that moment, even if it was still worth seeing for other people, or it was actually someone's intention for me to hide it for them. And I think that happened in the future at some point. But the other thing was indeed if it was about something that I could not share, and if it was over something that someone promised me that I would not share, or if it was both of those combined, whereas it would be like a deal where it's like it's for something that, even if it has nothing to do with inappropriate topics or obscure controversial topics, it is for a purpose that is connected to something that is more secret anyway. So even if it was an appropriate, non-controversial topic, if it was discreet for that reason alone, for needing to be in a better place, in a better, more handled environment, then that abstract reasoning alone is why it had to be a secret and why it had to be kept that way. But it's just I don't mean any offense to you guys. It's just that that's what's happened to like 5% of my claymations. It's like they would just be hidden for that reason. It doesn't have to be allowed on YouTube. It doesn't have to be like Well, if it was on YouTube in the first place, but yeah, it's just that's what happened. So, but yeah, claymations. I do enjoy making claymations. I do enjoy sharing them on YouTube. I do enjoy like every time I kept saying it wasn't a passion, but rather a talent. And as I proven through the tutorials and behind the scenes stuff, and wherever I've done good or bad with the quality claymation. Again, I don't be in quality content in the way I should. Sorry, but like, it was more like I didn't have to worry about being some kind of million subscriber YouTuber or like having monetization in a really good place or whatever, what have you. But which those things still matter to me, but they're just not like the crucial headpiece of the content I make, or even quality content for that matter. But yeah, it comes back to stuff like that. Some of this is when I say claymation that is commissioned or private. It's not that it will never be for fun or that'll never be like for any better reason. That's why Project Tether comes in. I'm still wondering how I'm going to do Project Tether. I was confident that Project Tether would be monetized and commissioned, even commissioning Project Tether. Holy shit! But like monetizing Project Tether would still help me a lot. It would make the most sense for it. It really would, because there would be a reason to monetize the ads and the viewership and all that. But it's like that's at least from ads, if not sponsorships, I guess. But with Project Tether, making it something that's mostly mine for the record, and making it something that I can monetize without having to feel like it's losing its fun for being made as an original storyline series, and that's gonna be really fun to do. Because if I made a non-profit organization kind of thing, that would be ideal. It would be worth a try at least to see how that will work. But I'm pretty confident I would have the balls to monetize it and not regret that. That's just what I'm saying. So, we'll push for 20 minutes exactly, or 21 minutes. We'll push for that 21 minutes. Pretty much, yeah, just the things that I enjoy doing. There was even doing Power Platform. I talked about this before a little bit. Where Power Platform was something that I enjoyed doing. I didn't make as many videos about it before. Not even like a let's do kind of thing. Like things like Power Platform that gets me invigorated. Stuff like that where I'm just tinkering with things. Maybe for a science wannabe perspective. But to actually like do stuff like that without feeling attachment. The funniest thing I learned from some of these private and public hobbies I had was I learned how to have a hobby and how to have a passion for something without needing to be attached to it. And I even with Power Platform, I was like, okay, this is really fun, but I don't need this. Even if it has something that could be really valuable in the future, it has skills that are irrelevant to other things that I'm doing with it that are helpful in the future. If I let go of this, I won't regret it. And I don't need to be in touch with something that I need to prove myself to do something about, which I felt for cartooning and claymation, unfortunately, to an extent. I hope cartooning comes back as much as claymation, but because claymation I still try to maintain, and maybe even cartooning. But I'm looking at just basically all the things I do in general, like including the secret stuff and the public stuff. It's like the thing about the secret stuff is that there are things I do keep to myself for safety reasons, but amongst those safety reasons, there are things I do keep to myself that aren't supposed to be, they don't have to be a secret, but they just mean I have something to keep for my own self, something that I can regard to myself, something that I can refer to myself as being my own thing without having to worry about sharing with everyone else, or feel like I have to do that. And that doesn't have to be seen as too selfish. If it's literally selfish, that's kind of the point, is to be selfish in a way that I can do appropriately without breaching other people's boundaries or my own even. But to prevent other people from breaching my own boundaries is their own kind of selfishness, and that has to be done at some point. So that's why those boundaries need to be there. But, looking at what I've done lately with those projects, it's like, it's sad that some of my secret projects make me less explanatory, so that I can't talk about the things that are secret, but that I may have a need for an outlet for something like that, or even those things specifically, but I just can't. That's a hard struggle right there sometimes. You feel like you had to talk about these things, but you can't. And it's not because you're hiding something that's hurting you. Hopefully not. If that's happening, then you have to actually know why that's happening, as I learned from someone else, apparently, in my life. One of my friends and family has told me about it before. That was pretty cool of them to do that for me. But the things that are public, I'm grateful I can share them, because not only whether they're needed or wanted as an outlet, they are still there for me to express in my own way and do it my own way, and they can be shared. But even if my public things aren't to be shared, even my secret things are depending to be shared, it's still me trying to live my own life, and it's making sure that I learn these things now. Even if I decide against them later, it at least means that I know what I'm doing, and I know what I can do to express myself without needing to be public or private. So there you go.